Please like, share, and subscribe. Wishing you happiness and good luck every day.
So what if I told you that becoming a millionaire isn't really about luck, but about following a formula? That's right. Today, we're diving deep and breaking down the blueprint for building wealth, all based on Brian Tracy's classic book, The 21 Success Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires. All right, let's just jump right in with the core idea here. In this one, it kind of challenges everything we're taught about wealth. The central message of the whole book is this: success is predictable. I'll say that again, predictable. It's not some accident, it's not a miracle, and it's definitely not luck. It's a result, something you can actually engineer. So what we've done is distill all 21 of Tracy's secrets into a really powerful 5-part blueprint for you. We're going to start with the foundational law, the thing that makes it all work. Then we'll get into the 3 pillars: mastering your mindset, building your work ethic, and forging those unbreakable habits. And then we'll wrap up with the single most important action you can take, like right now.
Okay, first up, we have to talk about the fundamental law that governs pretty much all achievement. You can think of this as the master principle, the engine that makes this entire system go.
Get this. Here's a pretty staggering fact for you. Over 90% of financially successful people, they started with little or absolutely nothing. And you know the average self-made millionaire? They've been bankrupt or nearly bankrupt about 3 times. I mean, if that doesn't prove that your starting point has nothing to do with your destiny, I don't know what does.
So, what does this all boil down to? It's one powerful, almost universal concept: the law of cause and effect. It's really simple. If you do what other successful people do over and over again, you will eventually get the same results they get. It's like gravity. Nature's neutral, it doesn't play favorites. The formula is just that simple. Learn the causes, and you can't help but produce the effect of success.
All right, so that brings us to our first pillar, mindset. This is so crucial because before you can achieve a single thing out there in the real world, you have to win the game that's played inside your own head. It all starts right up there.
Now, Tracy groups a bunch of his secrets into what are basically 3 core commands for your mindset. First, and this is a big one, you have to give yourself permission to dream big dreams. No holding back. Second, you've got to crystallize those dreams, make them real by writing them down as clear goals. And third, you have to accept 100% responsibility for your life. No excuses. Think of it this way: you are the president of You Incorporated.
So how do you actually turn those big dreams into reality? Well, it's not enough to just think about a goal, right? You need a plan. And this is it: a 7-step formula that transforms a vague wish into a concrete, actionable plan. And you know what the most important step of all is? It's that last one: doing something, anything, every single day that moves you just a little bit closer.
Okay, so once you've got that mindset dialed in, the next step is to channel all that mental energy into real-world, powerful, consistent action. This pillar is all about what you actually do.
Yeah, the secrets in this section, they're all about execution. It means you commit to being in the top 10% of whatever it is you do. It means you put in the hours you need for success, not just to get by. And this is huge, you dedicate yourself to lifelong learning. You're always reading, always listening to programs, always trying to keep your skills absolutely razor sharp. This leads to something Tracy calls the 40+ formula. And the idea is actually super simple. Working 40 hours a week, that's just for survival. That's just treading water. Every single hour you work over that 40-hour mark is a direct investment in your future success. And you know what? The data totally backs this up. The average work week these days is hovering around, 35 hours? But self-made millionaires, they're working an average of 59 hours a week. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about just being busy or wasting time. It's about focused, productive work when you are on the clock. All right, on to our final pillar. This is the one that makes all that hard work, well, sustainable. It's all about building the daily disciplines, the automatic habits that don't just create wealth, but preserve it for the long haul. And these 3 habits, they're absolute game changers. Number 1, pay yourself first. That means saving and investing at least 10% of your income before you pay a single bill. Number 2 is self-discipline, which Tracy calls the master key to riches. And finally, persistence. That's that ironclad quality where you decide right now that you will never, ever give up. Period. You know, the math behind paying yourself first is actually way simpler than you might think. Get this. If you save just $100 a month and invest it at a pretty average 10% annual return, you can become a millionaire over your working lifetime.
It's not about the giant sums of money. It's all about the power of consistency, of making it a habit.
When you really think about it, self-discipline just boils down to a simple choice. People who fail tend to do what's tension-relieving. You know, what's fun and easy right now. But successful people, they do what's goal-achieving. They do the hard, necessary things today to get the amazing results they want tomorrow.
There's this amazing quote from Jim Rohn that Brian Tracy uses, and it just captures this trade-off perfectly. It goes, "Discipline weighs ounces, failure weighs tons." I mean, think about that. The pain of discipline is just a small weight to carry today, but it saves you from the crushing weight of regret later on. So there you have it. We've laid out the entire blueprint. We started with that foundational law of cause and effect, and we built on it with the 3 pillars: mindset, work ethic, and habits. So after all that, what's the one big idea you should walk away with?
Here it is. The big takeaway is that becoming a self-made millionaire, it isn't magic. It's not some secret that's only for a chosen few. It is a system. It's predictable. And it's based on principles that anyone, and yes, I'm talking to you, can learn and apply in your own life.
And to get this whole system moving for you, the book leaves us with one last, incredibly powerful question to ask ourselves. The key is not to get overwhelmed and try to do everything at once. Just ask yourself this one question. Find that one single action, and then, like Tracy always says, just do it.
So, what's the one thing that really separates the most successful people from everybody else? I bet it's not what you're thinking. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a secret that's actually super simple, but it's the real starting point for any great achievement. Let's dive right in.
And hey, this is not some new age idea. Even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius knew what was up. This quote, it's not just a nice thing to read, it's practically a blueprint for changing your life. The idea that big dreams actually have the power to move you, to get you going, that is the first, and I mean the most crucial step towards financial freedom. So there it is, the very first secret, the power of big dreams. Now, this isn't about daydreaming or wishful thinking. No, this is about making a conscious choice to give yourself permission to imagine a future that is just worlds away from where you are right now.
Let's just try a quick thought experiment together. Come on, just for a second, imagine that all your limitations have just vanished. Poof! You've got all the time, all the money, all the resources you could ever need. The best education, all the right friends and connections, they're all yours. If there was literally no ceiling on what you could do, what kind of life would you build for yourself?
And this right here, this is the single biggest thing that holds people back. It's not a lack of money or opportunity, it's a lack of imagination. The number one reason people don't achieve their dreams is that the thought of huge success, it just never even occurs to them. And because of that, they never try. They never even take that first step.
So how do we break through that mental barrier? Well, high achievers, they have this kind of secret weapon. It's an incredible mental tool, and it's called thinking back from the future. You know, this technique, it has an absolutely massive impact on your mindset and your actions. Instead of just wishing things were better, you mentally jump into that perfect future and you look back at how you got there. And what this does is it creates this crystal clear, actionable roadmap right inside your head.
So, how does it work? It's really just 3 simple steps. First, I want you to project yourself 5 years into the future. Got it? Okay. Second, imagine your life is perfect. I mean, absolutely 100% perfect in every single way. And third, fill in the details. What does that perfect life actually look like? What are you doing every day? Where are you working? And here's the big one. How much are you earning and what kind of life does that money give you? The more specific you get, the more powerful this becomes.
The payoff for doing this is just huge. When you have this super clear vision of your ideal life, it acts like a giant magnet. It pulls you towards your goals, and it feels like it's pulling your goals closer to you, too. This kind of mental clarity just unleashes your creativity, and you'll suddenly start coming up with all these ideas to make that vision a reality. But here's the really cool part. The benefits of this, they're not just for some future version of you. The simple act of dreaming big has an immediate, powerful effect on you right now, today. See, it's not just about what you're going to achieve 5 years from now. It's about changing how you see yourself in this very moment. The second you give yourself permission to dream big, you start to see yourself as someone who is worthy of those dreams, as someone who is capable of achieving them. And the ripple effect is just incredible. Your whole self-concept gets a boost. Your confidence starts to soar. You develop a deeper level of self-respect.
And all of these things, they lead to more happiness, and they light this fire inside you to just be better than you've ever been before. There's a real excitement that comes from having a huge vision for your life.
Okay, so all of this, it really boils down to one single, incredibly powerful question that you have to ask yourself.
Seriously, take a second and really think about this. If failure was completely off the table, if you knew you could not fail, what would you dare to dream? What would you go for?
What is that one great goal? Big, small, short-term, long-term, doesn't matter. What's the one goal you would set for yourself right now if you were absolutely 100% guaranteed to succeed? Whatever just popped into your head, write that down.
Look, a dream without any action is just a fantasy, right? So now it's time. It's time to go from that internal vision to the external, practical steps that you have to take to make it real. This is where the rubber meets the road. We are going to take that big, amazing dream and turn it into a real, concrete first step. Here's the plan. Okay, it's a super simple 3-step action plan. First, write down a list of everything you'd do if you knew success was a sure thing. Second, look at that list and pick out one specific action. Just one. And third, and listen, this is the most critical part of all, you have to do it immediately.
So, let's bring it all home. This isn't just about thinking happy thoughts, dreaming big. It's the non-negotiable starting point for financial success. It changes how you see yourself, and that changes your actions. And ultimately, that's what changes your entire life.
So as we wrap this up, there's really only one question left that matters. You've got the dream. You have the goal. So what's your first step going to be?
You know, we often think success comes from luck or talent or just working ourselves to the bone. But what if I told you the single biggest secret is something you can control right now? It's all about having a clear sense of direction. So let's break down why a clear purpose is your ultimate advantage.
This quote from the historian Thomas Carlyle just absolutely nails it. I mean, think about it for a second. Imagine a ship without a rudder. Even on the calmest sea, it's just going to drift, right? But a ship with a clear destination, it can navigate through the absolute roughest storms. That, right there, is the power of purpose. It turns whatever's in your way into a stepping stone.
And that power, that purpose, it's all fueled by this one core idea. Honestly, this might be one of the biggest discoveries in human history. Your life is basically a mirror, reflecting your most dominant thoughts. What you focus on, day in and day out, is where you're going to end up. It sounds so simple, but when you really let it sink in, wow, the implications are just huge.
Okay, so if our thoughts are really that powerful, what's going on in the heads of the most successful people? What is it that they're focusing on? What's the real difference between a millionaire's mindset and, well, everyone else's? Let's dive right in.
Here it is. This is the fork in the road. It's this simple. High achievers, they're obsessed with their goals. They think about them, they talk about them, they imagine what it feels like to hit them. This creates this incredible forward pull toward the future they want to build. But so many other people, their minds are just filled with their current worries and past problems. And that focus, it just keeps them stuck, running on a hamster wheel of the same old thoughts, getting the same old results. So the big takeaway here is your focus literally determines your direction.
So, how do you actually do it? How do you consciously shift your focus from all your problems to your biggest goals? Well, this isn't about wishful thinking. There's a practical, step-by-step formula for this. This is the blueprint for turning that high achiever mindset into actual, real-world results.
And here is that exact formula. First, you've got to get crystal clear. I want to get in shape is just a wish. I will run a 5K in under 30 minutes. Now that's a goal. Second, you have to write it down. This simple act makes it feel real, it makes it tangible. Third, give it a deadline. A goal without a deadline is just a dream that's always going to be somewhere off in the future. Fourth, make a list of every single thing you can think of that you need to do to get there. Don't censor yourself, just dump it all on the page. Fifth, organize that list into a real plan. What comes first? What's most important? Sixth, and this is huge, take action right away. Procrastination is the ultimate dream killer. And finally, the most crucial step of all, do something, anything, every single day. Even a tiny step forward builds unstoppable momentum. All right, we've talked about the what and the how. Now it's time for the do, because all this theory is completely useless if you don't actually put it into practice. So let's get our hands dirty with a simple, but believe me, incredibly powerful challenge. But first, before we jump into the challenge, just look at this for a second. This is staggering. 97% of adults have never, not once, made a written list of their goals. Just let that sink in. The vast majority of people are navigating life without a map, just kind of hoping they end up somewhere great. That is a massive gamble to take with your one and only life.
So this is your moment. This is your chance to join that top 3%, the people who actually take the wheel and decide their own direction. Are you ready to take this one simple step that can put you on a totally different path?
Okay, here's the exercise. It's simple. Grab a clean sheet of paper. At the very top, write the word goals and today's date. Then, I want you to write down 10 goals you want to achieve in the next year. Now, here are 2 really important rules. First, start every goal with the word I. And second, write it in the present tense, as if you've already achieved it. So you don't write, I will earn X amount, you write, I earn X amount. It's a simple little trick, but it really helps program your subconscious mind for success.
All right, once you've got your list of 10 goals, take a look at it, read them over, and now ask yourself this incredibly important question. This isn't about which goal is the biggest or sounds the most impressive. It's about finding the one goal that, if you achieved it, would make everything else on that list so much easier to get. Which one is your master key? Okay, you've written your list, and you've picked out your #1 priority. We're almost there. Now it's time for the final piece of the puzzle, the daily habit that's going to bring this whole plan to life and really truly unlock your potential.
I want you to take your pen and draw a big circle around that #1 goal. This is your new obsession. From this moment on, you think about it, you talk about it, you're constantly asking yourself, how can I make this happen? This kind of intense, singular focus, that's what unlocks your creativity, that's what supercharges your energy, and you'll find it starts to attract the people and resources you need to succeed.
And this all leads us to one simple but absolutely game-changing habit. Always think on paper. Get your goals, your plans, your brainstorms, your worries, get them out of your head and onto a page where you can actually see them. It brings clarity, it helps you organize your thoughts, and it makes it so much easier to take action. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with a final challenge. Don't put this off. Don't wait for the perfect time, because the perfect time is right now. What is the one goal you are going to commit to on paper today? And how is that one act going to change the entire course of your next year?
So, what if I told you there's this one simple mindset shift that completely separates the highest achievers from the rest of the pack? It's not about working harder. Nope. It's about thinking differently. Today, we're going to dive into what it really means to see yourself as self-employed. You know, this line right here, it's not just some fancy poetry. It's a personal declaration, right? It's that moment you decide, hey, I'm in the driver's seat of my own life. I'm not just a passenger along for the ride. This idea, this radical self-responsibility, it's the foundation for literally everything we're about to get into. Okay, so before we can really grab the wheel, we have to talk about the one thing that holds so many of us back. And trust me, it's a trap we all fall into at some point. It's the blame game. I mean, we've all been there, right? A project goes sideways, you don't get that promotion you were counting on, and what's the first instinct? To look around for someone or something to blame. It's totally natural, it's a defense mechanism, but man, it is such a trap. And oh boy, the list of usual suspects is a long one, isn't it? It's the economy, it's my boss, he's just awful. Maybe it's even, well, it's how I was raised. And yeah, it's super tempting to point fingers. But here's the hard truth. Blame is a total dead end. It just keeps you stuck, waiting for the world to change when you're the one who needs to make a move. So this is the moment of truth. The only way out, the only way forward, is to embrace this idea of radical ownership. It's looking in the mirror and saying, this is my life, and I am 100% responsible for it. That's it. If you don't like something, you, and only you, have the power to change it. You're back in the driver's seat. And you know what? Once you truly accept that you're in charge, it's like a whole new world of possibility just cracks wide open. And that leads us right to the core idea we're talking about today, this millionaire mindset that can absolutely transform your career and honestly, your entire life. Okay, take a look at this number for a second. 3%. What's that about? Well, according to our source material, this is the tiny fraction of top earners who all share one incredibly powerful belief. And get this, it has nothing to do with their industry or their background or anything like that. And here it is, the big secret. They see themselves as self-employed. That's it. It doesn't matter who signs their paycheck. In their head, they are the CEO of their own career. The absolute biggest mistake you can ever make is thinking you work for somebody else. You don't. You always work for yourself. This chart right here just breaks it down perfectly. Think about it. The typical employee mindset. It waits for the annual review to maybe kinda talk about a raise. But the self-employed mindset, that person schedules a meeting in June to make a solid case for it. See the difference? One is reactive, just waiting for things to happen. The other is proactive, making things happen. It's the difference between just looking for security and going after results. So the real question is, which side of this chart are you living on? All right, so how do we actually make this mindset a real, practical thing in our lives? Well, it all starts with this really powerful metaphor. Start thinking of your life as a business. And guess what? You're the CEO. Seriously, just imagine it for a second. You're not just an employee somewhere. You are the president of You Incorporated. You're the one calling the shots. You're setting the vision. You're making the tough decisions. This isn't just some clever little phrase. It's a completely different way of operating in the world. And as president, you are responsible for every single department. Your career? That's a department. Your finances? Yep, another one. Your physical health, your relationships, it's all under your leadership. This is all about taking that high-level CEO view of your own life. Okay, a mindset is great and all, but what does this actually look like in practice? What do people with this self-employed mentality actually do day-to-day that really sets them apart? Honestly, it all boils down to one word: results. These people aren't just punching a clock from 9 to 5. They are obsessed with outcomes. I mean, think about it. A top salesperson doesn't get paid for how many calls they make, right? They get paid for the deals they close. Their value is in what they produce. And this slide gives us the playbook. Here's exactly how they do it. First, they don't wait to be told what to do. They take tons of initiative. Second, they volunteer for those tough assignments, the ones nobody else wants. And third, they are always asking for more responsibility. They're constantly hunting for ways to add more value. And why on earth would they do all that extra work? Because they're playing the long game. Every single extra task, every new responsibility they take on, it's an investment in their own future. See, they're not just doing their current job. They are actively building the skills, the experience, and the reputation for the job they want next. Okay, so we've talked about the mindset, we've talked about the actions. Now for the most important part, actually putting this stuff into practice. It's time, right now, for you to make your very first executive decision as the president of You Incorporated. And I want you to take this seriously for a second. Really think about it. If you were truly the president of your own company for just one day, what is the one change you would make immediately to get better results? What's that one thing that would make the biggest impact? Look, don't let this just be another interesting idea you hear and then forget about. No. Grab a pen, open a note on your phone, whatever works. Write it down. What is that one change? Then make a super simple plan and just begin. Take the first tiny step today. I'm telling you, this one small action could be the start of a whole new chapter for you. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Forget all the excuses. Forget about all the things you can't control. As the captain of your own soul, what is the one thing, it could be big, it could be small, doesn't matter, what is the one thing you are going to take complete 100% ownership of starting right now? Believe me, your future self is going to thank you for it.
So what's the real secret that self-made millionaires know? I mean, we all hear about the hustle, the discipline, right? But author Brian Tracy says there's something else, something way more powerful that we often miss. Let's dive in and figure out what that is.
Just pause on that for a second. Seriously, can you imagine a life where your job doesn't feel like a job? Where that line between what you have to do and what you want to do just vanishes? This isn't just some nice feel-good idea. Tracy is convinced it's a fundamental rule for building serious wealth.
Now, let's be clear. This whole never work again thing isn't about just quitting and hitting the beach for the rest of your life. Not at all. It's about completely changing what work feels like. It's about that huge shift from feeling obligated to feeling passionate.
And check out the language here. He doesn't call it good career advice. He calls it a primary responsibility. It's like finding out what you're naturally good at, what you actually love doing, is one of the most important missions you have in life. And then, you got to go all in on it.
Okay, so what is this big secret? You know, the one that separates so many self-made millionaires from pretty much everyone else. Well, it turns out it's not some super complicated financial hack. Nope, it's something way more personal.
It all boils down to one word: alignment. See, self-made millionaires aren't just working hard for the sake of it. They've found a field that's a perfect match for their natural-born talents. It's like finding the one lock that your key was built to open. When that happens, being great at what you do starts to feel almost easy.
And this is the phrase that Tracy says you hear over and over and over again from these folks. It's not that they aren't putting in the hours. They totally are. It's just that the work is so engaging, so fascinating to them that it doesn't feel like work at all. It feels like play.
And the result of finding this alignment is just incredible. It's not just about making money. It's about having this constant flow of excitement and energy. You become an idea machine just because you're so plugged in and engaged. That's the real engine that drives massive success.
All right, this brings us to a really powerful thought experiment. It's a way for you to test right now how aligned you are with this whole idea. And it's called the $1 million question.
So let's set the stage. Just imagine this amount of money, a cool million, tax-free, boom, it suddenly shows up in your bank account tomorrow morning. You're set. Now what?
And be really honest with yourself here. Would you march into your boss's office and say, "I'm out of here"? Or would you keep going? Your gut reaction to this question tells you almost everything you need to know.
And here's where the difference is just so stark. Most people would say, oh, I'd quit in a heartbeat. But for the self-made millionaires, the answer is usually the exact opposite. They wouldn't stop. Heck, they'd probably use that money to do what they already love, but bigger and better.
This right here reveals the whole mindset. For them, work isn't just a path to get somewhere else, like retirement. The work itself is the reward. It's the destination. So, if that $1 million question made you feel a little uncomfortable, don't worry. That's actually a good thing. Because the source doesn't just point out the problem, it gives us a clear step-by-step plan to start moving in the right direction.
This is basically your blueprint. First, look back. What things have you done that made you feel totally alive and also led to your biggest wins? Next, look forward. If you absolutely could not fail, what would you choose to do? Okay, make that your goal, map out the steps to get there, and this is the most important part, take that first step today. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, today.
In the end, it really all comes down to this one question. It just cuts through all the practical stuff and gets right to the heart of what matters. Answering this question honestly for yourself, well, that might just be the first real step toward a life where you never have to work again.
So, what if one single decision could totally change the entire trajectory of your career and your life? Well, according to our source material for today, it absolutely can. So let's break down what that decision is and how to make it happen. This idea from the legendary coach Vince Lombardi, it's really our starting point. It's not about just being average or pretty good. It's about a deep personal commitment to being the best, no matter what you do. That mindset, right there, that's the key. So what really separates the most successful people from everybody else? What's the actual secret to joining that elite group? That's the big question we're going to answer today. All right, let's dive into our first section here, the excellence principle. This is all about that one foundational decision that can literally change everything. And you know what? It's simpler, but also way more powerful than you might think. And there it is. The whole journey starts with a simple resolution, a firm decision to be among the absolute best at what you do. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. The source calls this a turning point. And it's not just about, tweaking a habit. It's a fundamental shift in your path, in your mindset, and in your personal standards. And it starts right now. But look, for a lot of people, the idea of the top 10% brings up this huge mental block. So in this next part, we're going to tackle that self-doubt that holds so many people back from even getting started. Our source material just hits this self-doubt head-on with this really powerful statement. The myth is that some people are just born for success. The truth? The top is accessible to anyone who's willing to make the commitment. And this is the key thing to remember. Every single person in that top 10%, they started in the bottom 10%. Seriously, everyone who is doing well now was at one point doing poorly. The only difference was the decision they made to start the journey. So the crucial point is this. Your success isn't really dependent on your boss or the economy or luck. It's dependent on you. External stuff doesn't define your ceiling. Your commitment to your own development does. Okay, so you're ready to commit. Awesome. But where do you even start? Well, the source provides this incredibly powerful catalyst for change, and it comes in the form of one single question. Just let that sink in for a second. What one skill, if you developed it to a level of true excellence, would have the greatest positive impact on your career? This question is specifically designed to create laser-like focus. And here's why that question is so powerful. The goal isn't to be a jack of all trades. It's about strategic excellence. See, trying to improve everything all at once, that just leads to burnout and, honestly, not much progress. Choosing one thing forces you to make a high-leverage decision. So you've asked the question, you've identified a skill, now what? How do you turn that idea into a reality? Well, the source gives us a really clear 4-step plan to turn that commitment into real-world action. So it starts with step 1. Identify your key result areas. What are you absolutely required to do well to succeed? Then step 2. Honestly assess your strengths and weaknesses in those areas. Grade yourself. Step 3. Choose that one skill that's going to help you the most. And finally, step 4. Make a concrete plan to get better at that skill every single day. This is how you make it real. I mean, an idea without a plan is just a wish, right? So you have to write it down, give yourself a deadline to create some urgency, map out the plan. And then, the most important part, you work on it every single day to build that momentum and actually achieve mastery. So you make the decision, you identify the skill, and you put in the daily work. What's the ultimate payoff? Why is this commitment really worth all the effort? The payoff is finally hitting that goal. You join the top 10%. And it's not just a number. It's about becoming recognized by your peers as someone who is truly, deeply competent and valuable. But the benefits? They go so much deeper than just a bigger paycheck. This commitment actually becomes the foundation for higher self-esteem, for personal pride, and a way more positive outlook. It fundamentally changes how you see yourself. And that's really the core of it, isn't it? The internal reward is just immense. There is this deep personal satisfaction that comes from mastery, from knowing that you are at the top of your game because you earned it. And what about the tangible results? Well, the source makes a really bold claim. This one commitment to excellence has the power to make you a self-made millionaire over the course of your career. So we end right where we began, with a decision. The theory is over. Your commitment can start right now. The only question left is the one that only you can answer. What will be your one skill? You know, we're always told to work smarter, not harder. But what if that's only half the picture? What if one of the biggest secrets to real, massive success is just to flat-out outwork everyone? Today, we're talking about a core principle that pretty much all self-made millionaires live by, and that's the pure power of working longer and harder. I love this quote because it totally flips the script on what it means to work hard. It's not just about grinding it out. It's about creating your own luck. The idea is that luck isn't some random thing that falls out of the sky. No, it's something you actually generate with pure effort. The more you're out there working, the more doors you open, the more chances you have to be in the right place at the right time. And that really leads us to this big question. For decades, the 40-hour work week has been the gold standard, right? But think about it. Was that standard designed to help you just survive, or was it designed to help you truly succeed? The whole philosophy we're digging into today says it's absolutely for survival. And if you want to get ahead, you have to completely rethink that number. So, to do that, to challenge that standard, we're going to look at a new framework. It's called the 40+ formula. And it's basically a simple but really powerful piece of math that draws a very clear line between just getting by and actually getting ahead. Okay, so here's how the formula breaks it down. The first 40 hours you work every week, that's just for survival. That's paying the mortgage, keeping the lights on, buying groceries. But every single hour you work after those first 40, that's not for your boss. That's not for survival. That is a direct investment in your future. So when you look at it this way, you can see two very different paths emerge. On one side, you have the 40-hour path. Yeah, it keeps you afloat, but it's pretty much the road to mediocrity. You're surviving, sure, but you're not really getting anywhere. But on the other side, you've got the 40+ path. That's the one that's framed as an investment, and it leads to real financial success and a ton of respect. Now, let that sink in for a second. This is a pretty bold claim, right? That your work habits today are basically a crystal ball for your future. The number of hours you put in, that you invest past that 40-hour mark every week, can predict with some pretty scary accuracy where you're going to be in 5 years. Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds good, but what does it look like in the real world? I mean, does the data actually back this up? Well, let's take a look at the work habits of people who've already made it. Self-made millionaires. Here is the number that just kind of stops you in your tracks, 59. And get this, according to the research, 59 hours isn't some crazy outlier. That's the average. Self-made millionaires are working, on average, 59 hours a week. And for a lot of them, especially when they were starting out, that number was more like 70 or even 80. And this chart really puts that into perspective. The average work week for most people today is actually closer to 35 hours. So we're not just talking about putting in a few extra hours here and there. This is a fundamentally different universe of work. It's almost 25 hours more every single week than what the average person puts in. And it goes way beyond just the total hours. It's a whole mindset. They're usually working 6 days a week, not 5. They're the first ones in the office in the morning, and they're the last ones to lock up at night. They're basically putting in the time before and after everyone else even thinks about working. Okay, but here's a really, really important point. It's not enough to just be physically at your desk for 59 hours a week. The secret isn't just about the quantity of time, it's about the quality of the focus you bring to those hours. The rule is so simple, but man, it is incredibly hard to follow. When you work, you work. That's it, full stop. It means that when you are on the clock, you are 100% focused on things that actually produce results. No distractions, no messing around. And that means you have to be absolutely ruthless about cutting out all the little things that eat away at your focus. No personal calls on work time. No long, pointless chats by the coffee machine. Definitely no running personal errands when you should be working. It's about creating a solid boundary. Work time is for work, period. So why? Why this crazy level of focus? Well, it's strategic. When you combine those long hours with that intense, focused work, you build a powerful reputation. You become known as the go-to person, the hardest worker on the team. And that is the kind of reputation that gets you noticed by the people who can change your career. All right, this all makes sense. But how do you actually do it? Where do you even begin? Well, there's a really clear, simple, actionable plan that you can start using literally tomorrow. Here it is, a simple 3-step strategy. First, get to work an hour before everybody else. Use that quiet time to get a huge head start on your day. Second, work through your lunch hour. While the office is a ghost town, you can get so much done without any interruptions. And third, stay an hour later to finish up and prep for the next day. It's all about finding that focused, quiet time on the edges of the normal workday. And the payoff for this simple shift could be massive. The idea is that by just adding these 2 or 3 super productive hours to your day, you could actually double your output. You're not just working longer, you're working smarter by using the quietest, most focused parts of the day to your advantage. So, at the end of the day, the question this whole idea leaves us with isn't some abstract theory. It's actually really personal. Looking at your own goals, your own dreams. The real question is for you. How many hours over 40 are you willing to invest in yourself and in your future, starting this week? Have you ever wondered what that one habit is? You know, the one that consistently separates self-made millionaires from, well, everyone else? It's probably not what you think. Today, we are unlocking a secret that really fuels incredible success, helps build fortunes, and honestly, it might just change how you see your own potential. Let's dive in. So, let me start by asking you a question. In any field, any profession, what's the one thing you absolutely have to do to be successful? Really think about that for a second. Is it just about having talent? Is it luck? Working super hard? The real answer? Well, it's a lot simpler and way more powerful than any of that. And there it is. The answer from author Dennis Waitley is continuous learning. And listen, this isn't just some nice-to-have tip. He calls it the minimum requirement. It's like the price of admission if you want to succeed. This single idea right here is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. This really gets to the heart of the millionaire mindset. See, they understand that their number one asset isn't their bank account or their business. It's their own mind. Your ability to learn and adapt is practically unlimited, which means there's really no problem you can't solve if you just put your mind to it. Okay, think about it like this. Your mind is basically a muscle, right? You wouldn't expect to get stronger by just sitting on the couch and avoiding the gym. It's the exact same idea here. To build a smarter, stronger, more capable mind, you've got to work it out. You have to strain it, push it, and constantly challenge what you think you know. So, this all leads us to the big reveal, the core secret we're digging into today. It's known as the 7th secret of self-made millionaires. And frankly, it's considered the key to not just surviving, but thriving in the 21st century. So, what is this big secret? It's simply this: making a conscious, deliberate decision to dedicate yourself to lifelong learning. It's about realizing that school doesn't end at graduation. It's a commitment you make to yourself to never, ever stop growing for the rest of your life. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Lifelong learning? That sounds like a huge, exhausting commitment. But it's way simpler than it sounds. This huge idea actually breaks down into a really simple, actionable system with just 3 keys. Think of these as the keys that will start the engine of your growth. And here they are, the 3 pillars. First, read every single day. Second, listen to educational audio programs. And third, attend courses and seminars in your field. That's it. That's the formula. Now, let's break each one down. All right, key number 1 is all about consistency. The best way to think about it is that reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body. Just 30 to 60 minutes a day of focused reading in your field, that becomes the fundamental workout for your mental muscles. And the results from this one little daily habit, they're kind of staggering. Reading for about an hour a day works out to be about 1 book a week, and that adds up to roughly 50 books in a single year. I mean, just look at the massive advantage this gives you. The average adult reads less than 1 book per year. By just picking up this one habit, you're not just getting a little bit ahead, you are playing an entirely different game. Over a decade, that's you with 500 books under your belt versus maybe 10 for them. The knowledge gap becomes an absolute chasm. Okay, key number 2 is where things get really clever. This is about transforming that downtime, commute time, into uptime for your brain. We all spend time in the car, right? This habit is all about reclaiming that time for your own personal growth. And this gives rise to this incredible concept called the university on wheels. Your car stops being just a car and becomes a mobile classroom, a learning machine. The rule is super simple. Whenever you turn the key in the ignition, an educational audio program starts playing. So why is this such a huge deal? Well, get this. The average person spends somewhere between 500 and 1,000 hours in their car every single year. That is a gigantic, completely untapped block of time just waiting to be used. To really put that into perspective for you, 500 to 1,000 hours is the same amount of time as 1 or even 2 full-time university semesters. Can you imagine getting that level of education year after year just by changing what you listen to on your way to work? It's an absolute game changer. And that brings us to the 3rd and final key, actively seeking out structured learning. When you go to a course or seminar, what you're really getting is an expert's years, maybe even decades, of experience all boiled down into just a few hours or days. This is a massive shortcut. It can save you years of trial and error and a ton of money. So what happens when you combine all 3 of these keys? You're not just adding knowledge piece by piece anymore. Oh no, you're compounding it. And over time, this creates what looks to everyone else like some kind of unfair advantage, but it's an advantage you've built for yourself, system by system. The difference over just 1 decade it's almost hard to believe. We're talking 500 books versus less than 10, potentially 10,000 hours of learning in the car versus 0. The result isn't a small promotion. It's a completely different career trajectory, a total shift from going nowhere to explosive exponential growth. Okay, so how do you actually do this? Where do you even begin? It all starts with a simple challenge. Start treating your own learning like a do-it-yourself project. This isn't homework. This is the project of building your own future. It's actually a pretty simple plan. First, just pick one subject. The one thing that, if you became an absolute expert in it, would have the biggest positive impact on your life and your career. Then you make mastering that subject your personal project. You commit to applying those 3 keys we talked about. You read about it, you listen to audio about it, and you attend courses on it. You become relentless. And I want to leave you with this final thought because it really hits home. This isn't just about getting a little better at your job. It's about taking control of your own destiny. The knowledge you build becomes the engine for your success. So really, the only question left is, what subject are you going to choose for your project? All right, what if I told you there's a simple, almost secret rule that has the power to completely change your financial future? Today, we're diving into success secret number 8. Pay yourself first. And let me tell you, this is one of the most powerful financial habits you can possibly learn, so let's get right into it. But first, before we get to the solution, we have to talk about the problem. Ever have that feeling? You get a raise, you're making more money, but somehow you still end up with nothing left at the end of the month. It's like you're running on a financial hamster wheel, this frustrating, invisible force that just keeps so many of us from ever getting ahead. Well, believe it or not, there's actually a name for this. It's called Parkinson's Law. And what it means is pretty simple. No matter how much money you earn, you will tend to spend that much, and usually just a little bit more. It's the reason we never seem to get out of debt or build any real savings. Our spending just expands to eat up our income. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. If it does, you're definitely not alone. This is a huge reason why so many people struggle. We see something, we buy it on impulse, and boom, we're victims of this law without even realizing it. But here's the good news. You don't have to be. So how do you break free? Well, it all comes down to adopting one simple and honestly, kind of counterintuitive rule. But get this, it's the first rule followed by pretty much every single self-made millionaire, and it completely flips the script on how we handle our money. And here is the core idea, and this is a real game changer. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Just let that sink in for a second. This part isn't for your landlord, it's not for your car payment, it's not for groceries. This money is for you and for your future. It is a profound shift in how you think. And that brings us right to the heart of it, the big one. Success secret number 8 is pay yourself first. I want you to make a resolution today, right now, that you are going to save and invest at least 10% of your income. And you're going to take it right off the top of every single paycheck before anyone else gets a penny. Now, I know what you might be thinking. 10%? Are you kidding me? That sounds like a lot. But hang on. What if I told you that a habit as small as saving just $100 a month could put you on the path to becoming a millionaire? No joke. Let's look at the math because it is absolutely astonishing. So let's start with just $100 a month. That's it. For a lot of us, that's about the cost of a few fancy coffees a week. It's a manageable, totally achievable amount for almost anyone. See, the key isn't the amount, it's the consistency. That's the magic. Okay, now imagine you take that $100 every month and you invest it in something like an average stock market mutual fund. Historically, over the long haul, these have returned around 10% a year. Now, of course, past results are no guarantee of the future, but it gives us a really powerful example of what's possible. And this is where the magic really happens. It's a little thing called compounding. Over your working lifetime, that small, consistent habit starts to build on itself. At first, the growth is slow, you might not even notice it, but over the decades, it starts to accelerate, building into an unstoppable financial force. And the final result? After all those years of this simple $100 a month habit, by the time you retire, you could be worth over $1 million. Let that sink in. This means that practically anyone, even someone earning minimum wage, has a clear path to becoming a millionaire if they just start early enough and stay disciplined. It's an incredible, incredible thought. Okay, so the path is clear, but we all know life gets in the way, right? Things come up. Making this happen requires discipline. So how do we build this into an automatic habit and really, truly master the escape from that paycheck to paycheck trap? Well, the biggest enemy of this plan is impulse buying. The solution? Just wait. Delay your big decisions. The longer you wait before making a major purchase, give it at least a week, maybe even a month, the better your decision is going to be. And a lot of the time, you'll end up getting a better price too. This all comes down to a mindset of frugality. And listen, this doesn't mean being cheap. It means being intentional. It means you question every single expenditure. You're careful with every penny. You're making your money work for you, not the other way around. But what if you're still thinking there is just no way I can save 10% right now? That's okay. The source gives us a brilliant starting point that just removes every single excuse you could possibly have. So forget 10% just for now. Start with 1%. That's it. Put 1% of your income away into that special account first. Then you just learn to live on the other 99%. I promise, you won't even feel it. As you get comfortable, you bump it to 2%, then 3%, and so on. Within a single year, you'll be saving 10% or even more and living comfortably on the rest. This process has worked for every single person who has ever tried it. So really, the only question left is, what's your first step going to be, and when are you going to take it? The answer has to be today, right now. So here's your mission, starting as soon as this is over. First, open a special savings or investment account. Do it today. Second, make your first deposit. I don't care how small it is, even a single dollar starts the habit. And third, commit to learning. Start reading books, listen to experts, and never stop growing your financial knowledge. It all comes back to this simple idea. That potential for financial freedom, those seeds of greatness, they are already in you. And the simple act of paying yourself first is how you plant them. So the only question left is, will you plant them today? All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking a really powerful secret for unlocking top-tier performance. You know, the kind that brings those incredible rewards no matter what field you're in. So, first things first, let's talk about a fundamental truth of how the market really works. It's a super simple but incredibly powerful idea about what you put in and what you get out. And I mean, this slide just says it all, doesn't it? It's pretty straightforward. If you deliver average performance, you can expect, well, average rewards. That's fair. But if you're chasing those excellent rewards, the big promotions, the top-tier income, then you have to deliver excellent performance. There's just no way around it. The two are completely connected. Okay, so that leads us to the real million-dollar question, right? How do you do it? How do you consistently deliver that kind of excellent performance that just commands those top rewards? Well, let's get into the secret. And here it is, the 9th secret to success, a deep, unwavering commitment to learn every single detail of your business. This isn't just about punching the clock. It's about a relentless, passionate dedication to continuous learning within your field. You know, this quote from Dan Kennedy just nails it. Think about that for a second. When you become very good at what you do, it's not just a nice little advantage. He's saying it becomes a force of nature. It makes your advancement, your success, practically inevitable. So, this is the big takeaway here. Your main professional goal, your North Star, should be to become a recognized expert. I'm not talking about being just competent or pretty good. I'm talking about becoming an absolute expert at what you do. This is the real foundation for everything else. Okay, so become an expert. That sounds great, right? But what does that actually look like in practice? How do you do it? Let's break down the practical toolkit for building that kind of deep, game-changing expertise. Here are the 3 pillars of your toolkit. It's pretty simple, actually. First, you've got to read, and I mean everything you can get your hands on. Books, magazines, online articles in your field. Second, go to courses and seminars. Learn from the people who are already at the top. And third, join your industry association, show up to the meetings, and get to know the other key players. It's all about total immersion. But you might be wondering, why is this so powerful? Why does becoming that deeply knowledgeable person give you such a massive, almost unfair advantage? What's the secret sauce at work here? Well, there's actually a name for it, the law of integrative complexity. Now, it sounds a little academic, I know, but the idea is actually super simple. It basically says that the person who can absorb, connect, and actually use the most information in any field is the one who will, without a doubt, rise to the top. You become the go-to person because you see the whole board, not just the next move. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory from a textbook. It has a direct, measurable, and frankly, massive impact on your bottom line. The world of sales is probably the clearest example you can find. Just take a look at this chart for a second. The difference is, well, it's staggering. On the one hand, you've got the bottom 80% of salespeople, and on the other, you have the top 20%. And that is not a small gap, my friends. That is a canyon. That taller bar, that's the experts. So just how big is that canyon? 16. times. That's not a typo. On average, the top 20% of salespeople are earning 16 times more than the bottom 80%. If you ever needed proof that expertise pays, that right there is it, in cold, hard cash. Okay, so we get the principle, and we've seen the proof. Now for the most important part. How do you put this to work for you? Let's build a simple 3-part action plan you can start using literally today. First things first, you have to become a student of your industry. Ask yourself, what are the trends right now? Where is everything heading? What's the new technology? What are the new strategies that are changing the game? You've got to know. Okay, once you've got a handle on the trends, the next question is even more critical. Looking at where things are going, what are the specific skills you're going to need not just to keep up, but to actually lead the pack a year from now or 5 years from now? Get really clear on what those are. And finally, this is where it all comes together. This is the real call to action. What's your plan to build those skills? And the key word here is today, not next month, not when you have more time. What's one thing you're going to do every single day to get a little bit closer to mastery? And I want to leave you with this final thought because it's so important. Your entire career, your entire life can change with just one detail, one new idea, one little insight. That breakthrough could be waiting for you in the next book you open or the next conversation you have. Your job is to simply never, ever stop looking for it. You know, what if I told you there was one simple secret to getting pretty much everything you want out of life? I'm not talking about some trick or a hack, but a fundamental shift in how you see the world. Today, we're going to unlock that very idea, a master key to achievement that's really just hiding in plain sight. Let's dive in. It all starts right here with this legendary quote from Zig Ziglar. And listen, this isn't just some feel-good saying. It's the entire blueprint. The idea is so simple but so powerful. Your success is just a direct reflection of how much you help other people succeed. Everything we're about to cover really just unpacks this one powerful truth. So, how does this actually work in the real world? Well, it begins with a fundamental rule of life, something we're going to call the law of exchange. This is the bedrock principle, the thing that governs the relationship between what you give and what you get back. And here it is, the crucial point. Your rewards in life, we're talking money, promotions, satisfaction, you name it, they are not random. They are in direct proportion to your service to others. Think of it like a really simple equation. The more value you provide, the more you are rewarded. It's a cause and effect relationship. Okay, that might sound like a nice theory, but how does it play out where it really counts? This brings us to what the source material calls the Millionaire's obsession. This is the point where this principle stops being a theory and becomes a powerful daily practice. The truth is, the most successful people don't just think about customer service. They are absolutely obsessed with it. It's all they think about. They are constantly wondering about their customers, their needs, their wants, their problems, and how they can serve them better than anyone else on the planet. In that obsession, it translates into a very specific set of questions they ask themselves like all the time. Notice the focus here is completely external. It's never what do I want to sell. It's always what do my customers truly need? What do they consider value? This relentless questioning is what leads to those breakthrough moments in service. Okay, now this is where the whole concept really expands and becomes relevant to every single one of us. I don't care what your job is. We have to ask a critical question. Who exactly is your customer? Because the answer, well, it's probably much broader than you think. This right here is the key mind shift. A customer isn't just the person who buys a product from you. It's anyone you depend on, and anyone who depends on you. It's a relationship of mutual reliance. You know, once you get this, everything starts to look different. So let's make this super concrete. Your boss? Yep, absolutely your customer. You depend on them for your job, and they depend on you to get work done. Your coworkers? You bet. Their success is tangled up with yours. It's literally anyone who depends on you. This simple shift in perspective reveals you have customers all around you, every single day. Okay, so now we know who our customers are. That brings us to the how. What are the practical tools we can use to start serving them better, like right now? Let's go ahead and open up the service toolkit. This is it. This is the master question you should ask yourself every single day. Just imagine the compounding effect if you started each morning with this thought. It completely focuses your mind on adding value, which, as we now know, is the key to unlocking your own rewards.
So how do you actually increase your value? Well, here are 3 incredibly practical ways. First, overdeliver. Always try to do a little more than you're paid for. Second, go the extra mile. And third, be fast. In today's world, speed is a critical form of service. That second point, though, is especially powerful.
I just love this visual. Think about it. So few people are willing to go beyond what's strictly required of them, that when you decide to operate on that extra mile, you have very little competition. The path is just clear for you to stand out. And speaking of standing out, let's talk about speed. In our fast-paced world, one of the greatest forms of service is just being responsive. The source says these are the sweetest words your customer, whether that's your boss or a client, can ever hear. Sure, right away. It just screams competence, care, and respect for their time. Okay, so we've covered the principle, we've covered the mindset, and the tools. But look, none of it matters without action, right? So this brings us to our final and most important section, your action plan. This is how you turn these ideas into actual results. So here is your exercise. Seriously, after this is over, take a moment and actually answer these questions. Who are your key customers using our new broader definition? Who do you rely on the most and who relies on you? And finally, the big one, what is one specific thing you can do, starting today, to take better care of them? You see, in the end, the secret to getting what you want isn't really a secret at all. It's a choice. It's a daily commitment to serving others. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Who will be the first person to benefit from your decision to serve better starting today?
You know, we're always told that honesty is a virtue. But what if it's more than that? What if it's also a secret weapon? What if having total, absolute integrity is one of the most practical strategies you could ever have for long-term success? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down why being honest isn't just about being a good person, it's about being incredibly effective. Okay, this single sentence right here, this is the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. And it's just an undeniable truth. I mean, think about it. Every single transaction, every partnership, every time you choose to buy something, it all just boils down to trust. And that's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? If trust is the absolute bedrock of success, how in the world do you actually build it? You know, brick by brick? Let's get into the blueprint. Right, so the best way to think about trust is to see it as a kind of currency. It's a massive asset that you build up over time. You can spend it, you can save it, or, unfortunately, you can lose it. Your whole goal is to become incredibly wealthy in this currency. So here's the bottom line. Your potential for success is directly, and I mean directly, tied to how many people actually trust you and your word. This isn't some fuzzy, abstract idea. It has a real, tangible impact on your career and your life every single day.
And this trust has to be far-reaching. It's not just about your customers. Think about all these different groups. Are the best people going to want to work for you? Are suppliers and banks going to lend you money when you need it? Will people be willing to buy from you? And maybe most importantly, will people have your back when things get tough? Every single one of those answers hinges on the reputation you've built.
Okay, so if trust is the currency, then your character is the bank that holds it. It is, without a doubt, the single most important asset you will ever develop, and it's something you build consciously every single day.
And this right here is the key takeaway. Character isn't some fixed thing you're born with. It's the direct result of how much integrity you practice. It's not a noun, it's a verb. It's really the sum of all your daily choices.
So, if integrity is something you have to practice, how do you actually do it? Well, the source material breaks it down into 2 simple keys. One that's all about what's going on inside you, and one that's about how you show up in the world.
What's so fascinating here is how this connects our internal world to our external actions. See, it all starts with being true to yourself. You know, doing excellent work even when nobody is looking over your shoulder. That internal commitment, that personal honesty, it naturally flows outward into how you treat other people. You can't really fake the external part for long if that internal foundation isn't solid. They're just 2 sides of the very same coin. So how can you measure your own actions against this kind of standard? The source gives us this really powerful mental tool for this, a kind of personal litmus test you can use anytime you want.
Seriously, just take a moment and really think about that question.
If everyone told the truth just as often as you do, treated other people the way you treat them, worked with the same level of commitment, what would that world look like? It's a powerful and, yes, sometimes a pretty sobering question to ask yourself.
And that's the principle in action. See, asking that question forces you to raise your own standards. When you start acting as if everyone is modeling their behavior after yours, you just naturally start making better choices. You begin to live with way more intention and integrity.
Okay, finally, let's look at a super practical way to use this whole concept to solve real-world problems. Because at the end of the day, your integrity is rooted in your values. And those values, they can act as your compass.
Now, this is a pretty profound idea. The source suggests that a lot of our stress and anxiety is not random. It's actually a signal. It's like an alarm bell going off, telling you that your actions are out of sync with your core values. You're compromising on something that's really important to you, and that internal friction is what's creating the problem.
So the action plan is incredibly straightforward. First, when you feel that stress, don't just ignore it or push through it. See it for what it is, a signal. Second, ask yourself, what value of mine is being compromised right now? Is it honesty? Is it fairness? Excellence? Pinpoint it. And third, once you've identified it, resolve to act in alignment with that value, no matter how tough it might seem in that moment.
And really, that brings us right back to the core of it all. The real takeaway here isn't just knowing this stuff, it's doing it. Absolute honesty is built on small daily choices. So let's make it real. What's the one choice, just one, that you'll make today to be true to the very best that's in you?
So, what's the one habit that really separates self-made millionaires from everyone else? According to author Brian Tracy, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. A simple but really profound secret to success: the power of single-minded focus. You know, this quote just nails that feeling of being pulled in a million different directions, right? A double-minded person, that's someone trying to chase two rabbits at once. And what happens? You catch neither. It's just a recipe for instability, where you feel constantly busy, but you're not actually moving forward. It is the chaos of an unfocused life. Okay, this slide right here, this shows a trap we all fall into. We get confused between motion and actual progress. On the left side, you see that frantic, kind of chaotic energy of just being busy. But on the right, that's the calm, purposeful path to real achievement. The secret we're digging into is all about how you make that shift from tangled up activity to focused, powerful action. Let's start with a feeling I think we all know way too well: the unfocused mind. It's like being on a hamster wheel. You're running, you're putting in all this energy, but at the end of the day, you haven't actually gone anywhere. It's the illusion of being productive without any of the results to show for it. So the big question is, how do we get off that hamster wheel for good? Well, the solution is in what Brian Tracy calls success secret number 12. And listen, this isn't just another productivity hack you'll forget next week. This is a core habit of the world's most successful people. It's a foundational strategy for building a life filled with purpose and achievement. So what is this powerful habit? It's single-minded concentration. And it's really just a two-step process. First, you figure out your single most important task. And second, you work on it and nothing else until it is 100% complete. Sounds simple, right? Well, as we're about to see, that's where the real challenge comes in. So why is this so hard? I mean, it sounds easy enough. It's because this habit is basically the ultimate test of your inner strength. It's a full-on battle against every single distraction. It's a test of your self-discipline and really a measure of your personal character. Developing this skill isn't just about getting more stuff done. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve anything they set their mind to. Okay, so how in the world do you pinpoint that one crucial task? Well, lucky for us, Brian Tracy provides this incredible 4-question formula to cut right through all the clutter. You start with a big list of everything you need to do, and then you use these questions to find your actual number one priority. The first question makes you think like a top performer. Out of everything on their plate, which tasks are going to deliver the biggest bang for your buck? It's all about finding those vital few things that truly move the needle on your most important goals. All right, question 2 cuts straight to the heart of your professional value. Why am I on the payroll? This one is so powerful because it forces you to think beyond just your job description and focus on the specific results you are paid to deliver. It's a huge shift from just being busy to actually being valuable. Now, this third question, this is where you find your superpower. What is the one thing that only you can do, that if you do it well will make a massive difference? This is where you find your greatest leverage, that one task where your personal effort has the biggest possible impact. And finally, we get to what might be the most important question of all. At any given moment, and get this, there can only be one answer to this question. What is the single most valuable thing you could be doing with your time right now? Finding that answer and then acting on it, that's the key to unlocking truly high performance. So, you've used those 4 questions, you've found your most important task. That's great. But guess what? You're only halfway there. Now comes the real test of discipline, the power of completion. 100%. Let that sink in for a second. Not 95%, not even 99%. So why is that last little bit so crucial? Because all those unfinished tasks, they just linger in our minds. They're like open tabs in your brain's browser, just draining your focus and your energy. The real power and that amazing sense of accomplishment comes from taking a task all the way to the finish line. This is where you really have to dig deep. It's like pushing that giant boulder all the way to the top of the hill. It requires immense perseverance to shut out all the distractions and resist the temptation to jump to easier tasks. It's about staying locked on target until the job is 100% done. And you know what the coolest part of all this is? Over time, if you keep doing this, it stops being such a struggle. It actually becomes an automatic habit. You're not just completing tasks anymore, you're building a system for high performance that dramatically increases your odds of success in, well, everything you do. So let's make this real. Right here, right now. Here's your action exercise. First, identify your single most important goal. Second, what is the one task that will get you closest to it? And third, this is the big one. Can you commit to working on that one thing and only that thing until it's 100% done? This is your chance to put this powerful principle into practice today. So I'll leave you with this final, really powerful thought. Your ability to answer this question, and then, more importantly, to act on it, could change everything. What is the one task that if you did it, and you did it well, could change your whole life? Find it, and then begin. All right, let's dive into a success secret that honestly could completely change the game for you and your career. And it's not about just working harder, it's about working faster. We're going to talk about how to build a rock-solid reputation for being fast and dependable, and how to turn time into your ultimate superpower. I love this quote from Dean Briggs. He talks about doing a little bit more. You know, that extra something. Well, in the world we live in today, that little bit more is almost always one thing: speed. It's the little extra that's actually worth more than everything else. So let's break down why. Okay, so this brings us to our first really big idea here, and it's all about how we think about time itself. Look, we all tend to focus on money, right? But the argument here is that the real most valuable currency today isn't the dollar, it's the minute. Just think about your own life. Everyone is in a massive hurry, always looking for ways to save a little time here and a little time there. And man, have our expectations shifted. I mean, it wasn't that long ago you'd order something and be totally fine waiting a couple of weeks for it to show up. But now, we want it yesterday. Patience has pretty much gone out the window. And get this, it's gotten so intense that even instant gratification feels slow. Think about that. The need for speed is so real that people who have been loyal customers for years will jump ship, like overnight, to a competitor who's just a little bit faster. Speed isn't a perk anymore, it's the price of admission. So, in a world where everyone is impatiently tapping their foot, how do you get an edge? Well, it's simple. You flip the script and you use that impatience to your advantage. You become known as the person who is fast. Now, let's be clear, having a reputation for speed doesn't mean you're frantic or sloppy. It's actually the exact opposite. It's a mindset that's built on 2 key things. First, a sense of urgency. That's a deep understanding that time is critical. And second, a bias for action. That just means your default setting is to do something, not to wait. So how do you actually build this bias for action? Well, you move fast when opportunities pop up, You move fast when people need something from you. When you see a problem, you start working on it right away. The goal is to get so fast and so reliable that people are genuinely amazed. You're not just quick, you're dependable. And this is where it gets really powerful, because when you adopt this way of working, you kick off an incredible chain reaction in your career. We've all heard the same, right? And there's a reason it's so true. People who are known for moving quickly are seen as effective and reliable. They become the go-to person. And when you're the go-to person, guess what? All the most important and interesting work starts coming your way. You can think of it like an engine that powers your career forward. It's a simple, powerful loop. Step 1, you get things done fast. Because of that, step 2, you start attracting more and better opportunities. And the natural result of that, step 3, you move to the front of the line. And this is the ultimate payoff. We're not just talking about a pay raise or a promotion. When you combine this commitment to speed with focusing on the right things, opportunities you can't even dream of right now will just start showing up. Seriously. All right, we've talked about the why and the how. Now it's time to put this into action. I mean, right now, in this moment. So let's get real for a second. I want you to think of that one important thing. You know what it is. That project, that tough email, that phone call you've been avoiding. Get it clear in your head. There's a simple 3-word mantra that can just shatter procrastination. For that task that's in your mind right now, I want you to make a resolution to take real action on it as soon as we're done here. Because the magic is all in the immediate action. Don't wait around for the perfect moment because it's never coming. Let this be your new motto. It's how you build that bias for action. It's how you create momentum out of thin air. Let these 3 little words become your trigger. The next time you feel yourself hesitating on something important, just get started. And that brings us to the final question. Think about that one task you've been putting off. What happens when you finally do it? What new doors open up? What kind of momentum does that build in your life? That is the power of speed and dependability. You know that feeling, right? In your career, in life, you hit a high point, you reach a goal, and then almost immediately, you're staring at the next big challenge. So how do you keep that momentum going? Well, this explainer is all about a really powerful mindset for long-term success. It's about being prepared to climb from one peak to the next. And to kick things off, let's start with this quote from the legendary coach Vince Lombardi. Winning is not a sometime thing. It's an all-the-time thing. Man, that really gets to the core of what we're diving into here. See, real success, it isn't just about those huge, flashy victories. It's about the commitment you show up with every single day, whether you're feeling on top of the world or you're stuck in a tough spot. So, how do you actually do that? How do you keep that all-the-time commitment when, let's be honest, life is just full of ups and downs? Well, it all starts with this core idea from our source material, something called the peak-to-peak principle. So let's break that down. Okay, just imagine you're a mountain climber. To get from one peak to the next, you can't just magically float across, right? Nope. You have to climb down into the valley first. And that, right there, is the heart of this principle. Those valleys, the setbacks, the downturns we all go through, they're not failures. Not at all. They're actually a necessary part of the journey to get you to that next, even higher peak. And doesn't this just sum up what the journey feels like day to day? It's never a smooth, straight line up, is it? It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And man, it is so easy to get discouraged in that 1 step back moment. But here's the thing, when you really get this peak-to-peak principle, you start to see that step back for what it is. It's not a failure. It's just part of the path to your next big climb. Okay, so this isn't just some nice little metaphor. It's actually a pretty accurate reflection of how the world really works. If you want to succeed, you've got to learn how to ride these inevitable cycles. I mean, look at any business, any industry you can think of. It's all built on cycles. You've got your up cycles and your down cycles, your booms and your busts. But underneath all of that, there are these huge, major trends that can literally change an entire industry. And trying to build a career while ignoring those trends, that's like being a sailor and trying to pretend the tide doesn't exist. It's not going to end well. Just think about this for a second. The internet. Before it came along, what did business look like? Rotary phones, typewriters, physical stores. That was the reality. Then, bam, this massive wave of technology just crashes over everything. Suddenly, we're talking about remote work, cloud computing, e-commerce. The entire rule book was thrown out.
And the people and the companies who adapted, they found a brand new, massive peak to climb. And the ones who didn't, well, they got left behind in the valley. And here's the mental trap that we all fall into, right? We get completely stuck on the left side here, that emotional roller coaster. The daily ups and downs, the project that goes south, the annoying email. We mistake all that short-term noise for the whole story. But if we can just force ourselves to zoom out, we start to see the real picture on the right, the big long-term trend. And despite all those little bumps, our progress is actually moving onward and upward. All right, so we know the valleys are coming. That's a given. The real question is, how do we prepare for them instead of just freaking out and reacting when they hit? The key is making a strategic shift to a long-term view. And here's what that actually looks like in practice. It means you stop staring down at your feet, worrying about every single little bump and crack in the pavement. Instead, you start looking way out at the horizon, maybe even through a telescope. Your decisions aren't just about this week anymore, or even this quarter. They're about where you want to be years from now. And that is what gives you the rock-solid stability to power through all the temporary setbacks. So, how long is long-term? Well, the source material suggests planning 2, 3, 4, even 5 years into the future. Seriously, think about that for a second. When you're operating on that kind of timeline, that day-to-day emotional roller coaster, it just loses all its power over you. You're playing a totally different game. And this is the payoff. This is the beautiful result of having that long-term perspective. When you zoom way out, all those little dips and valleys, they just blend into a bigger trend line that is always, always moving onward and upward. You see, you don't build success by trying to avoid the valleys. You build it by using each and every valley as a launch pad to get you to an even higher peak. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it, right? Well, this final section is all about that. We've got a concrete action plan to help you start preparing for your next peak. And the best part is, it starts today. It really just comes down to this simple 3-step plan. First up, identify the key trends. Seriously, look around your market. Where is it all going? What are the big shifts? Is it AI? Is it sustainability? Changing customer behaviors? Step 2, plan your adaptation. Ask yourself, okay, based on that, how do I need to change to thrive in that new world? What skills do I need to learn? And then number 3, and this is absolutely the most crucial part, take action now. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take that first small step today. So let's just leave it with this thought. The valleys in your life and career, they're going to happen. They're inevitable. But you know what? So are the peaks, if you prepare for them. So the real question isn't if you're going to face a downturn. The real question is this: what steps are you going to take today to get ready for tomorrow's peak? Have you ever wondered if there's like one single quality that separates the highest achievers from absolutely everyone else? Well, today we're going to dig into a really powerful idea that says yes, there is. There's a master key to unlocking your potential. So let's dive in and find out what it is. So what is it? What's that one thing? You know, we often chalk success up to talent or luck, maybe being in the right place at the right time. But what if it's something way more in our control? Something we can actually build ourselves? And here it is. The answer is self-discipline. Yeah, I know it might not sound sexy or exciting, but according to the material we're looking at, this is the single most important quality for success. So let's really break down what that means, and more importantly, how you can actually start building it. But first, what are we really talking about when we say self-discipline? Let's get a super clear definition, because this is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. This quote from Albert Hubbard it absolutely nails it. It's not about waiting to feel motivated. It's not about waiting for a burst of inspiration. It's about taking action, period, whether you're in the mood or not. It's that simple and, that difficult. Doing what you should do, especially when you don't feel like it. And if we dig a little deeper, it's not just one thing. It's really this powerful combination of 4 ideas working together: self-mastery, self-control, self-responsibility, and self-direction. It's the whole package. Ultimately, all of this boils down to one critical skill: being able to delay gratification. It's saying no to that easy, immediate pleasure, the extra hour of sleep, the junk food, the mindless scrolling, so you can say yes to the much bigger, much better success you really want down the road.
Now, what's really fascinating is how this one quality creates a massive split in how people approach life. It literally leads to two completely different mindsets, which you could almost call the success mindset and the failure mindset. And this gets to a huge misunderstanding we all have. We look at successful people and think, wow, they must just love the grind. They must enjoy doing the hard stuff. But the truth is, they probably don't like it any more than you or I do. The real secret isn't liking the hard work. It's doing it anyway, because they know it's the price of admission for the results they want. This chart just lays out the difference perfectly. Look at this. Successful people, they focus on pleasing results. They want the outcome, so their actions are all about achieving that goal. Unsuccessful people, on the other hand, they're focused on pleasing methods. They want the process to feel good right now, so their actions are about relieving tension or feeling comfortable. It's that classic choice, what's hard and necessary versus what's fun and easy. And this quote from Jim Rohn, wow, it puts everything into perspective, doesn't it? The daily effort of discipline might feel a little heavy, sure, like a few ounces. But that is nothing compared to the crushing weight of regret and failure down the line. That stuff weighs tons. Okay, but here's the good news. You don't have to wake up tomorrow and be a master of discipline. It doesn't work like that. It actually builds on itself. So let's look at how these tiny wins create this massive snowball effect in your life. The best way to think about self-discipline is like a muscle, seriously. Every single time you use it, even in a small way, it gets stronger. And what's so cool is that strength isn't isolated. You build discipline by going to the gym, and suddenly you're more disciplined with your work, with your diet, with everything. It all carries over. And this creates this amazing upward spiral. See, you start small. You practice discipline in little things, and every time you succeed, your self-esteem gets a little boost. You start to like and respect yourself more. And as that grows, so does your ability to take on even bigger challenges. You just keep moving onward and upward, building this unstoppable momentum. This all leads to a really powerful mindset shift. Try to start viewing every moment as a little test. A test of your self-control. Can you wake up when the alarm goes off? Test passed. Can you choose the healthy lunch option? Test passed. Every time you pass one of these small tests, you're basically leveling up in life. Okay, so we've defined discipline. We've seen its power, but just knowing this stuff is, well, it's useless without action, right? So this final section is all about turning this knowledge into a real-world plan. Your one thing to focus on starting today. So now the question is aimed right at you. Are you ready to take this idea and actually make it real? To decide right here and now that you're going to start building this habit for yourself? All right, here's a simple but incredibly powerful action exercise. Step 1. Identify just one area in your life where a lack of discipline is really holding you back. Just one. Step 2. Decide today, right now, that you're going to develop discipline in that area. Step 3. Launch with a bang. Tell somebody about your decision. That creates instant accountability. And finally, and this is the most important part, allow 0 exceptions. None. Not even one. Until that new habit is completely locked in. And please, don't underestimate the power of this. It might seem like just one small thing, but committing to discipline in a single area can set off a domino effect. It can create a chain reaction that completely transforms your future. This one decision really could change everything. So, we'll end on that question. Just take a moment. If you were going to start today, right now, what's the one habit you would choose to master? What will your one thing be?
Have you ever felt like creativity is this special talent that only artists or inventors get? Well, get ready, because we're about to completely flip that idea on its head. In this explainer, we're going to dig into creativity not as some rare gift, but as this incredibly powerful tool you already have to get what you want out of life. Let's jump in.
You know, when a guy like Einstein says something like this, you listen. And he's not just being poetic here. What he's saying is that our ability to imagine new things, to be creative, that's the real engine for progress. It's way more powerful than just knowing what already is. This really sets the stage for what we're about to find out about your own mind.
And look, I know how that sounds, but this isn't just some motivational poster quote. This is the core idea we're running with today. You are genuinely smarter than you think you are. You have more raw brain power and creative ability right now than you've probably ever used. This isn't about your IQ score. It's about unlocking the incredible machine you were born with. Okay, so a potential genius, huh? Where does a bold claim like that even come from? Well, it all starts with the staggering piece of hardware you've got running the show upstairs. The next couple of slides are going to put the sheer scale of your potential into perspective. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Just take a second and look at that number. 10 billion. That's roughly how many brain cells you have. Each one is a tiny little powerhouse. But honestly, the number of cells isn't even the craziest part. What's truly incredible is how they all talk to each other.
And there it is. No, that is not an exaggeration. Think about it. Each of those 10 billion cells can connect with thousands of other cells. The number of possible thoughts, ideas, and combinations you can create is, for all practical purposes, infinite. It means your ability to come up with new ideas is literally unlimited.
All right, so we've established you have a supercomputer in your head. Awesome. Now for the important question. How do we actually turn it on and point it where we want it to go? Well, going from just having potential to actually using it is way simpler than you might think.
The best way to think about your brain is to think of it like a muscle. It's such a perfect metaphor. You don't build bigger biceps by avoiding heavy weights, right? It's the same with your mind. You develop your mental strength by straining it, by forcing it to chew on tough problems and come up with new ideas. The more you use your creativity, the stronger and faster it gets.
So what kind of mental weights should we be lifting? Well, it turns out creativity gets fired up by three main things. First, having goals that you want, like really, really want. Second, facing down problems that just have to be solved. And third, asking your mind very specific, very focused questions. These three things act like a laser beam for your brain power, commanding it to get to work.
And this is so important. We need to redefine what creativity even means. Forget about painting a masterpiece for a second. In our day-to-day lives, creativity is just another word for improvement. Anytime you find a better, faster, cheaper, or easier way to get something done, guess what? You're being highly creative.
Okay, let's get to the most practical, hands-on part of all this. We've covered the why and the what. Now here's a concrete exercise you can start using today, like right now, to build that creative muscle and start generating breakthrough ideas whenever you want.
And don't worry, this isn't some complicated, time-consuming process. Think of it as a simple drill, a mental workout designed to do one thing: force your brain to get past the obvious answers and tap into that deep well of creativity we were just talking about. So here's how it works. 4 simple steps. First, take your biggest goal or most annoying problem and write it down as a question. Something like, how can I double my income in the next 2 years? Step 2, and this is the most important part, you have to force yourself to write down 20 answers. 20! Why so many? Because your first 5 or so answers are going to be easy, the obvious stuff. But the real gold, that's in answers 15, 16, 20, when your brain has to break out of its usual ruts to come up with something new. Then, step 3, look over your list and pick one answer to focus on. And finally, step 4, and this part is non-negotiable, take action on that answer immediately.
Which brings us to the real bottom line of this whole process. Look, coming up with great ideas is an amazing skill, but it's only half the battle. The real magic, the part that actually changes your life, is turning those ideas into real-world results. So let me leave you with this to chew on. Think about that one big goal you have, that pressing problem. Got it? Okay, now just imagine for a second that it's already solved, perfectly. What does that ideal solution look like? And more importantly, what's one single thing you could do right now, today, to start making that real?
Because at the end of the day, all the genius, all the creativity, all the brilliant ideas in the world, they mean absolutely nothing without execution. That list of 20 answers is just words on a page until you pick one and do something about it. So remember this, action is everything.
All right, let's talk about success. What if I told you the biggest factor wasn't your talent, or how hard you work, or even just plain old luck? Well, today we're going to uncover a powerful, often overlooked secret that could literally change everything for you.
You know that feeling, right? Where you're working your tail off, but it feels like the pieces just aren't clicking into place. Well, what if the biggest piece of that whole puzzle was something you deal with every single day? Something that's totally within your control. Okay, so let's put a number on this. And it's a big one. Research into the habits of self-made millionaires found something pretty staggering. Ready for it? 85%. 85% of your success and your happiness comes down to the quality of your relationships. I mean, think about that. That's not just a slice of the pie. That's basically the whole bakery.
Yeah,
This is so important, we're going to give it a name, the 85% rule. So let's really break down what that means for you and me in our day-to-day lives. I want you to think about your own life for a sec. Every major opportunity you got, every big challenge you overcame, that promotion, there was always someone there, wasn't there? Either helping or hindering. See, the most successful people get this. They don't just let their relationships happen by accident. Oh no. They are super intentional about building and keeping a network of high-quality, positive people.
And the flip side of this is, well, it's pretty stark. When you look back, almost all of your biggest problems, your worst headaches, can probably be traced back to the wrong relationships. And on the other hand, all your successes, they almost always came from the right ones. I mean, the stakes here are incredibly high.
Okay, so if relationships are the key, we need to get way more specific, right? So let's zoom in on this really powerful idea called your reference group. And trust me, this is where it gets super interesting.
And if you thought 85% was a huge number, you might want to sit down for this one. Because the research says that more than 90% of your success is determined specifically by this one group of people. So the big question is, who the heck is in this group?
Simply put, it's your inner circle. You know, your family, your closest coworkers, your best friends. The people you habitually spend time with and identify with. These are the folks who are shaping your reality, whether you even realize it's happening or not.
Think about it. We're kind of like chameleons. It's just how we're wired. We can't help but take on the attitudes, the behaviors, the values, and even the beliefs of the people we're around the most. You hang out with ambitious, positive people, guess what? You start to become more like them. You hang out with people who are critical and complain all the time, well, that stuff rubs off on you too.
So this leads to a really powerful, kind of blunt metaphor. Are you spending your time with eagles or with turkeys? You know, eagles are the ones who are positive, they're optimistic, they're goal-oriented, they're soaring. Turkeys, on the other hand, they're negative, they're critical, they complain, and they're just kind of stuck, you know, moving nowhere.
And his quote really just says it all, doesn't it? If you want to fly with the eagles, you cannot scratch with the turkeys. It's that simple. You just can't live a positive, high-flying life if you're surrounded by negativity that's constantly pulling you back down to the ground. Honestly, choosing who you associate with, it might be one of the most important decisions you ever make.
Okay, so we get the why, right? Surround yourself with eagles. Got it. But the real question is how? How do you actually do that? Well, that brings us to the next part. A really cool proactive strategy called the go-giver strategy. And this is something the best of the best networkers use.
So yeah, the most successful people are always networking. They do all the stuff you'd probably expect. They join industry groups, they go to every meeting, they get involved. But there's one core mindset they have that changes the entire game.
And here it is. This is the secret sauce. Instead of being a go-getter, you know, someone who's always thinking, what can I get? They flip the script entirely. They become a go-giver.
And the whole idea is built on this really simple but powerful concept. Always look for ways to put in before you even think about taking out. It's all about helping other people, giving them value first. Give your time, your knowledge, your connections, and do it without that little voice in your head asking, so what's in it for me?
So what does this actually look like day to day? It's not complicated at all. It's a simple 3-step process. 1. When you meet someone new, just be curious. Ask them about their business. 2. Really listen. Try to figure out what they need to succeed. And 3, as soon as you can, find a way to help them. Maybe you send some business their way, or just connect them to the right person.
And here's the kind of magic part of being a go-giver. It's almost like a law of nature. The more you give, without keeping score or expecting anything back, the more good stuff just flows back to you. And a lot of times, it comes from sources you would have never, ever expected.
Okay, so we've talked about the why and the how. Now it's time to bring this all home and make it real for you. Let's talk about your action plan. I want you to really think about these questions. In fact, you might even want to hit pause after this and actually write this down. First, who are the most important people in your life, right now and in the future? Who are your eagles? Next, how can you help them? Then think, who are the people you should get to know? And finally, the most important question of all, for every single person on that list, what can you do to help them in advance before you ever need a thing from them? It all comes down to this. First you sow, then you reap. Success isn't just about luck, it's about what you cultivate. And the relationships you build, well, those are the seeds for all your future success. So the question I'll leave you with is a simple one. What will you sow today?
You know, what if I told you that one of the biggest secrets of self-made millionaires has almost nothing to do with making money? Seriously, it has everything to do with being around long enough and feeling good enough to actually enjoy it. So let's get into it. Let's uncover this often overlooked secret to building a life that's not just rich in dollars, but rich in, well, life itself. And look, this isn't some new age idea we just cooked up. Way back, over a century ago, guys like Theodore Roosevelt were already onto this. He understood a basic fundamental truth. A sharp mind and a successful life, they're built on the foundation of a healthy body. It's a timeless principle, right? And today, in our crazy fast-paced world, it's pretty much the anchor that keeps everything from spinning out of control. Okay, think about this for a second. We are living in an absolutely incredible time for human health. I mean, when it comes to longevity and physical fitness, there has never, ever been a better time in all of history. The idea of living to 80, 90, maybe even 100 years old in excellent health, that's not a fantasy anymore. For a lot of us, it's not just a possibility. It's a choice that's just sitting there, waiting for us to make. So, this is really where it all comes together, right? This is the longevity wealth connection. It's awesome to have financial goals, hitting a certain net worth, building a business, but let's be real. What's the point of all that grinding, all that hard work, if you're not physically able to enjoy the freedom and the lifestyle it's supposed to buy you? The two goals have to go hand in hand. They just have to. So let's pause for a second here. A little honest reflection. I want you to take a good, hard look at your current habits. What you're eating, how much you're moving, how you rest, and ask yourself, and be honest, is the path you're on right now really going to get you to age 80 in great shape? And here's the bottom line, the most crucial point. Your health goal, it deserves the exact same level of ambition as your financial goals. The whole point isn't just to tack on more years. It's to live as long as possible so you can actually enjoy the amazing lifestyle that your money can provide. Now that's the ultimate return on investment, don't you think? Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like a huge undertaking. But honestly, it all comes down to a pretty simple and really powerful framework. There are really just 3 keys to a long, happy, and healthy life. And we're going to walk through each one. It's all about weight, diet, and exercise. All right, let's dive into pillar number 1, mastering your weight. This is the big one, the foundational goal. We're talking about getting lean and fit, not just for the summer, but for life. This is the commitment that everything else gets built on top of. It's the platform for lifelong energy and vitality. And you know what? You don't need some complex theory or the latest fad diet. The core principle for managing your weight is actually incredibly straightforward. In fact, you can boil it all down to just 5 simple words. Eat less and exercise more. That's it. It's direct, it's effective, and it just plain works. Okay, so that leads us perfectly into the second pillar, fueling your body. See, a proper diet isn't just about eating less, it's about eating better. The real key here is to focus on higher quality foods and, also eating them in smaller portions. And the choices become super clear when you break them down like this. You want to focus on eating more lean proteins, fruits, and veggies. And at the same time, you've got to consciously cut way back on things like desserts, sugary sodas, and pretty much anything made with tons of sugar or white flour. It's a simple swap, but man, the effects are huge. And there's a really powerful side benefit to all this. When you gain total control over your eating habits, which, let's be honest, takes real daily discipline, you'll find it gets way easier to take control of other areas of your life too. We're talking finances, productivity, you name it. It's what they call a keystone habit. It's the one that makes all the other ones fall into place. And finally, that brings us to our third and final pillar, moving with purpose. Now, this isn't just about, staying active. It's about intentionally getting into regular, vigorous physical activity, the kind that builds real strength and real endurance for the long haul. That's what we mean by moving with purpose. So to make this super practical, let's put a number on it. Here's a clear, specific target for you. Your goal should be to get around 200 minutes of physical activity every week. When you break that down, it's really just about 30 minutes a day. See? Having a concrete number like that turns a vague idea into a plan you can actually do. So the big question is, how do you hit that number? Well, the good news is you've got options, and they're flexible. It could be as simple as a brisk walk for 30 to 60 minutes. Maybe 3 to 5 times a week. Or hey, you could join a gym or even just get some fitness equipment for your house. The most important thing is to find what works for you and then stick with it. Consistency is everything. Now, let's be totally clear about something. Making these 3 pillars a real part of your life, it's not easy. This kind of commitment to your health takes a ton of self-mastery, self-control, and self-discipline. But like we've been talking about, the payoff is absolutely worth it. I mean, we're talking about a longer, better life. It doesn't get much bigger than that. Okay, so we've covered the why and we've covered the how. Now comes the most important part of all, actually doing something. Because, knowledge is just potential. It's putting it into practice that gives it power. And the time to start isn't next week or tomorrow. It's right now, today. So I want to leave you with a direct question, like a little action exercise to take with you. Think about it. What is the one health habit, just one, that you know you need to develop right now to get to those higher levels of health and energy? Maybe it's finally cutting out dessert. Maybe it's just starting that daily walk. Whatever it is, decide on it right now and make it your personal challenge. Because at the end of the day, if you take away one thing from all this, let it be this. Your greatest asset isn't your stock portfolio. It's not your real estate or your business, it's your health. It is the one asset that makes it possible to enjoy everything else. So protect it, invest in it, every single day. So what if the biggest thing holding you back isn't a lack of knowledge, but a lack of action? In this explainer, we're diving into the research on self-made millionaires to really unpack one core habit that separates the successful from everyone else. And it's the simple, powerful discipline of making a decision and, actually acting on it. Shakespeare absolutely nailed this mindset centuries ago. It's not about just standing there and weathering a storm of troubles. It's about taking up arms against them. It's the difference between hoping a problem just kind of resolves itself and deciding you're going to be the one to resolve it. That proactive stance, that's exactly what we're talking about today. So what really is that one quality? Well, the source material is crystal clear on this. It's the ability to make decisions quickly and, this is the important part, to actually act on them. And you know what the best part is? This isn't some special talent you have to be born with. Not at all. It's a habit. It's a discipline that anyone can learn and master. Okay, so the research presents this really fascinating divide. It's like 2 kinds of people whose destinies are shaped not by their circumstances, but by how they approach one single moment, the moment of decision. On the left, you've got the drifter. This is someone who's kind of trapped by the fear of making the wrong choice. They're stuck in what's called analysis paralysis. They often know what they should do, but they just never fully commit, and they end up settling for way less than their potential. But then, on the right, you have the driver. These are the decisive ones. They think things through for sure, but then they commit and they act. And here's the critical difference the research points to. Drivers simply try more things. So, how did these drivers turn thought into action so effectively? Well, it's not just chaos. It's actually a really disciplined process. Let's take a look at the steps. This whole process is this powerful loop that basically short-circuits the fear of failure. It all starts with careful thought, but it quickly moves to a firm decision and immediate action. Now, step 4 is where the magic really happens. You get real-world feedback. And instead of getting paralyzed because you made a mistake, you move right to step 5. You self-correct. You learn from what just happened, and you immediately try something new. It becomes this continuous cycle of acting, learning, and adjusting. Now, this action-oriented approach does something absolutely incredible. It fundamentally stacks the odds in your favor. It's not about making the perfect choice every single time. It's about playing the long game of probability. This quote, it gets right to the heart of the matter. Triumph isn't just for people who make flawless decisions right out of the gate. No way. It's for those who have the courage to simply try and then see the outcome not as success or failure, but just as data, and then try again. This whole thing really comes down to a powerful principle that the source highlights, the law of probabilities. And the logic is just simple and undeniable. The more shots you take, the more likely it is that one is going to hit the target. By trying a bunch of different paths, you dramatically increase the odds that you'll eventually find the one that works. Think of it like this. Successful people just take more shots on goal. That's really the core of it. By trying lots of different approaches, they drastically increase their odds of scoring. While other people are stuck on the sidelines in that analysis paralysis, the action taker is already on their 2nd or 3rd attempt, learning and adapting with every single shot. But it's not just about the probability, right?
taking consistent action creates something else, something really powerful: momentum. It's this self-reinforcing cycle where action literally creates its own energy. When you really embrace this, you shift your entire life into a higher gear. All of a sudden, you're getting more done, you're moving faster than the people around you, and this creates this incredible psychological feedback loop. The energy you get from achieving small things fuels your confidence for the bigger ones. It's just this powerful upward spiral. Action breeds motivation, which in turn breeds even more action. Okay, so let's bring all this out of theory and put it right into practice. The source material actually ends with a direct and immediate challenge for you. This is the question that just cuts through all the noise. We're not talking about a list of 10 things or some complex 5-year plan. What is the one action you could take right now, immediately, that would have the biggest positive impact on your results? Whatever just popped into your head, that's your starting point. So whatever your answer to that question is, the final takeaway from all this research is really simple and profound. The analysis is over. The perfect moment is never going to arrive. The only thing left to do is to take that first step. Just do it. That one decision you've been putting off, it might just be the one that changes everything.
You know, what's the one thing that holds more people back from really going after their goals than pretty much anything else? Today, we're going to dive into a massive mindset shift, one that can totally unlock your potential and change how you see failure forever.
So let's just jump right in. What do you think is the single biggest obstacle to success in your adult life? Seriously, take a second. Is it money, connections, maybe talent? Well, while all those things play a part, the real answer, it might surprise you.
Franklin D. Roosevelt famously said, "There is nothing to fear but fear itself." And that one powerful idea, it's the key to understanding what's really standing in our way. See, the biggest roadblock to success isn't actually failing. It's the fear of failure. It's that voice in your head, that worry, that can completely paralyze your thoughts and actions. And it often stops you from even taking the first step.
Okay, we've got to make a really important distinction here. Actually failing, that can be an incredible teacher. It makes you stronger, more resilient. But the fear of failure, oh, that's a whole different animal. It freezes you. It holds you back. It tells you not to even bother trying. Getting this difference is absolutely crucial if you want to move forward.
So if the fear of failure is the problem, then what in the world is the solution? Well, believe it or not, it might mean leaning into the very thing we're taught to run away from. Let's look at some really counterintuitive advice from a self-made millionaire that just completely flips the script on failure.
So the story goes, a young journalist once got a chance to ask Thomas J. Watson Sr., the founder of IBM, a pretty simple question. How can I become more successful and do it faster? He was looking for that magic bullet, you know? The secret sauce.
And Watson's answer was just brilliant. He said, if you want to be successful faster, you must double your rate of failure. Just let that sink in for a second. He didn't say avoid failure. He said double it. Watson knew a fundamental truth. The more you try, even when you fail, the more you learn. And all that learning, that's what ultimately leads to success.
This really says it all, doesn't it? Success isn't the opposite of failure. It's what's waiting for you on the other side of it. You have to go through failure to get to your goals. It's not a brick wall. It's part of the path.
All right, so we need to fail more. Sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that? How do we get past that fear that freezes us? Well, successful people aren't just reckless gamblers. They're smart about it. They take calculated risks.
The self-made oil billionaire J. Paul Getty had this simple but genius two-step process. First, you ask yourself, what is the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen if I do this? Then, you put a plan in place to make sure that worst-case scenario doesn't happen. With that one little mental trick, a terrifying giant unknown becomes a much more manageable risk.
And Ralph Waldo Emerson just nailed the whole idea of building courage. It's not something you're born with, right? It's a muscle. You build it by doing the very things that scare you over and over again.
And when you do that, you create this amazing positive feedback loop. Every single time you act boldly, your fear gets a little smaller and your courage gets a little bigger. Your self-confidence starts to grow, and you begin to see that all these new opportunities show up when you just dare to move forward. If you keep it up, you can get to a point where fear just doesn't have a hold on you anymore.
Okay,
Let's tie all of this together with one of the most powerful stories about this mindset from modern history. This is where this whole idea goes from being a good strategy to an absolutely unbreakable mantra.
So, picture it. NASA mission control during the Apollo 13 crisis. The astronauts are stranded in a crippled spacecraft hundreds of thousands of miles from home. The situation looks completely hopeless, and the people on the ground, they're starting to think they might lose them.
In that exact moment, with all that pressure and fear, the head of Mission Control, Eugene Kranz, pulled his team together and made this one powerful declaration. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. And it instantly shifted the entire room's mindset from what if we fail to how are we going to succeed.
And that is the attitude for you to adopt. When you're facing all the problems and difficulties that are going to pop up on the way to your goals, and they will, you have to tell yourself this: failure is not an option. That commitment, more than anything else, is what will guarantee your success in the long run.
So, we've talked about the mindset, the strategy, and the mantra. Now, let's make this real for you. Let's do a simple little exercise you can do right now to put this into action.
I want you to identify one big fear in your life, right now. Maybe it's the fear of failing at a new business, or the fear of being criticized if you share your opinion, or even just the fear of disapproval from people you love. Just get one specific fear in your mind.
Okay, you got it? Now, for a second, let's just pretend. Imagine you were 100% absolutely guaranteed to succeed in that area. As long as you took action, what would you do differently? How would you act?
Whatever your answer was to that question, whatever you just imagined yourself doing, that's it. That's the action you need to take. So resolve right now to act as if success was a sure thing and that fear simply wasn't there.
So, the question I'll leave you with is this: what are you going to do? What's the very first step you'll take? Today, now that you've decided to act as if success is inevitable and failure, well, it's just not an option. Your journey really does start with that very first step.
All right, let's get right into it. We talk a lot about what it takes to be successful, right? Things like talent, being super smart, having a great education. But what if there's one single quality that blows all of that out of the water? A secret that, if you can master it, practically guarantees your success. Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today, the 21st secret. And this quote from Calvin Coolidge, wow, it just says it all. Nothing can take the place of persistence. He says talent won't, genius won't, education won't. No, persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. I mean, think about that word for a second. Omnipotent. All powerful. That's a huge claim, right? But when you really stop and think about it, this is the one thing you see in every single great success story. It's not about the hand you're dealt. It's about how you play it. So let's talk about this omnipotent quality. Here's a great way to think about it. Persistence, it's like the iron in your character. It's what carbon is to steel. You can have iron, and yeah, it's strong, but when you add that carbon, you forge something completely different. You get steel, something truly unbreakable that can handle almost any amount of pressure.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this comparison. On one side, you've got the common stuff we think leads to success: talent, genius, education. But on the other side, you have the omnipotent qualities: persistence and determination. I mean, let's be real. The world is absolutely full of incredibly talented people who just never make it. It's full of unrewarded geniuses and, sad to say, even what some call educated derelicts. The things on the left are great to have, for sure, but without the stuff on the right, they're just incomplete. Persistence, that's the game changer.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But it raises the big question. How do you actually get this unbreakable persistence? Because it's not just about, gritting your teeth and pushing through when things get hard. There's a secret to it. There's a way to actually program your mind so that persistence becomes your automatic default setting. And here's the big secret. Are you ready for it? The real trick isn't about finding strength when you're already in the middle of a crisis. No. It's about programming your subconscious mind in advance. You decide how you're going to react before anything even happens. It's like building the muscle long before you ever need to lift the heavy weight. So how do you do that? It actually breaks down into 3 pretty simple steps. Step 1, you have to just acknowledge that crises are gonna happen. They're not just possible, they are absolutely inevitable. It's part of the journey. Step 2, knowing that, you make a decision. You resolve right now,
in advance that you will never quit, no matter what life throws at you. And step 3, because you've already done steps 1 and 2, when those challenges finally show up, you're not shocked, you're not thrown off course, you're psychologically ready for them. Here's another way to look at it. The whole of your life, really, is a test. But it's not some final exam you can cram for the night before. Nope. It's more like a series of pop quizzes. And these pop quizzes, they're designed to test one thing and one thing only: your persistence. So what is this persistence test? Well, it's that moment that just comes out of left field, you know? That unexpected problem, that crushing disappointment, or that full-blown crisis that just blindsides you. That is the test. And that's the moment that reveals what you're really, truly made of. And I love this quote from the philosopher Epictetus: "Circumstances do not make the man, they merely reveal him to himself." This is so powerful. It means these tests, these crises, they don't make you persistent. They don't create your character. They just show you the character that was there all along. The strength, the determination, it's already in you. The test just brings it out into the light. And get this, these tests, they're not a once-in-a-lifetime thing, not even close. If you're really going for big goals, you should probably expect some kind of crisis every 2 to 3 months. Seriously. And the bigger your goals, the more problems you're going to face. But listen, that's not a sign you're failing. It's actually a sign that you're in the arena, that you're playing the game. Now, when you start to consistently pass these little tests, that's when the magic happens. Something incredible starts to shift. You're not just surviving anymore. You're evolving. You are literally turning into a force of nature. You start to become unstoppable. Because think about it, when a crisis hits, there's so much you can't control. But the one thing, the only thing you have 100% control over is your response. And every single time you choose to respond in a positive, constructive way, you get stronger. It's like a workout for your soul. You become more and more capable, and you start building this incredible, unstoppable momentum. And you get to this point where no matter what kind of wall life puts in front of you, you find a way. You figure out how to go over it. Or if you can't go over it, you'll find a way to go under it. And if that doesn't work, you'll get creative and you'll find a way to go around it. And if there is absolutely no other option, you just summon every ounce of strength you have and you blast right through it. Basically, you become like that Energizer bunny, right? You keep going and going and going. You become relentless. Long after everyone else has gotten tired and packed it in, you're still in the game. So let's put it all together. What happens when you take that pre-programmed mindset we talked about and you combine it with all the strength you've built from passing all those tests one after another? Well, something amazing happens. Your success, it stops being about luck. It stops being about chance. It becomes inevitable. Okay, so let's make this real for you right now. Think about the biggest challenge, the most difficult thing you're facing in your life at this very moment. Got it? Now, instead of seeing it as just a roadblock, I want you to try reframing it. Ask yourself, what if this challenge was sent to me on purpose? What valuable lesson is this problem here to teach me, to help me succeed in the future? Seriously, what is that lesson? Because at the end of the day, this is the fundamental truth of it all. Success isn't some random accident. It's predictable. You are the master of your fate. You are the architect of your own destiny. And that leads us to one final critical thought. The only limits that really exist are the ones you set for yourself in your own mind. That's it. So I want to leave you with this one question. What limit are you going to remove today?